Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our Great Summer Read panel. My name is Sarah. I am the secretary of the Book and Author Society. And as always, when you get me, I'll start with a little housekeeping. For those of you that are new here, we are the Book and Author Society. We are a literacy organization that is located in the Metro Detroit area. Today, we are very happy to have two fantastic authors here to talk with us about their writing process and their book series. But for those of you who are familiar with us, we are that organization that would have very large luncheons 2 times a year. Stay tuned to the end of this program if you're particularly interested in that. And since March of 2020, we have moved to Zoom, still trying to connect you with your favorite authors and help you discover some new favorites along the way. So we hope we can do that for you today, this afternoon. I am very happy to welcome you to our Great Summer Reads panel. We did something similar last year with a bunch of romance authors, and today we are here with Tracy Gardner and Darcy Hannah. Between the two of these incredibly talented women, they have 3 mystery series, 2 historical fiction novels, and 1 soon-to-be-released contemporary women's fiction novel. Their characters are unique and decisive, their settings are dream-worthy, and their stories will keep you up way past your bedtime. So please join me in virtually welcoming Darcy and Tracy. And today, as with all of our Zoom events, we have that little Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom. So if you have questions, comments, anything, please put that in the Q&A. That is the thing that myself and Katie, another book and author board member, will be checking throughout the event. We will make sure to try to ask as many questions as time allows. So if you've got thoughts, feelings, make sure that they end up in there. And if you're listening to this talk today and you think, hey, I need more books, we have partnered with Schuler's Books in West Bloomfield. They're a new location of Schuler's in Michigan, and that link will be in our chat as well. I think that covers the majority of my opening spiel. So thank you all for listening to me talk for far longer than I will for the rest of the night. And hello, Tracy and Darcy. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
How has your summer been? Are we working on anything new and noteworthy?
Well, I'll answer that one right now. Yes, I'm working on a new cozy mystery series. So I'm just trying to get the time to write. So that comes out in 2024, and I'm still producing the Beak and Bake Shop mystery series as well.
That's very exciting. And you were just telling me that the 4th book in that series will come out at the end of July, and that we're already looking forward to Halloween.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's hard to have a Halloween launch. I have a copy of the ARC here, so it's going to look like, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, the glare!
I love it.
The glare!
It's so cute.
Yeah, to produce to release a Halloween book in the summer is always a challenge, but it's a great strategy because it gives people time to see it and hopefully read it all the way up through the Halloween holiday. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's exciting. And I've always wondered kind of how those holiday themed books work, because I always see them far before I'm ready to read them and then shove them all in last minute.
And they're kind of fun because the Halloween books, or not the Halloween, but the holiday books, like for some reason, I wrote 2 regular books, and then they had me write 3 holiday books. And then I will go back to some regular books. But the holiday books, the one after this is a St. Patrick's Day book, and it comes out probably December of this year, but it's considered a January release because you've got to have a couple months up to the actual holiday. And I was like, St. Patrick's Day, like I don't really celebrate that much. So what do I love about that? It was just hard to wrap my head around. I mean, Halloween, Christmas, those are, but yeah, and then but supposedly the St. Patrick's Day mysteries are another big holiday that readers like to read about. So who knew? I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
For the day.
I know. Tracy, don't we learn something new every day when we're in this industry?
Definitely. And I'm excited for yours now. Your Beak and Bake Shop comes out in July, right? Your next one, the Halloween one.
Yeah, July 25th.
I'm excited for that one.
And then I'm actually interviewing you in October. So Tracy has a book launch in October. So we're all excited because Tracy and I've we've known each other for a long time as writers in this area, the Livingston
Yeah.
County area. And so
Yep.
it's always exciting. And as authors, I think we love to champion each other, and we're so excited for each other. We love to see what each other produces. We have, some friends in our friend group that, take that ride along with us.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun, but yeah, so Tracy's venturing out into a new area. She used to be she used to be a romance writer, right? Or like
I think my roots are kind of in women's fiction, but then I
Women's
went
fiction.
down the cozy mystery road, which I still love. I'm currently working on another cozy series. I don't know, what exactly will happen with that. And then this is the women's fiction that comes out in October. So this is my little advanced copy there, but and that's October 10th, and I'm really excited for that. It's a contemporary women's fiction, romance, family drama, suspense-ish, kind of a little bit of
Everything I want a
everything.
book club to read.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's perfect.
We're very
exactly. Yeah.
excited. We're so excited for this. It's a different, like probably a little bit of a different audience, maybe not really, but it's just a whole new journey for Tracy. And I think it's so exciting because, I think your passion is that, isn't it? Like writing.
It is, it definitely is. And I learned while writing this, I can't not put a little bit of mystery in anything that I write. It ends up in there whether I want it to be or not. And so that, it is a contemporary romance, a book club fiction, but there is definitely the element of suspense in there where you just have to find out what is kind of driving the kind of the story, the characters to.
And that's a huge
unravel the thing.
subgenre for romance and contemporary women's fiction too. So you're covering all of your bases.
Awesome. That's great.
So I
Tracy,
want to
I know-
ask too, if I can jump in, you keep mentioning this cozy mystery term, and I'm wondering if you could talk about that a little more, because I'm super curious. I think I mentioned, Tracy, I don't read a lot of mysteries because I have no chill and I skip to the end. So I sort of avoid it so I don't ruin it for myself. But what is cozy mystery? Like, how does that work?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, naughty, never skip to the end of a mystery. No, I'm kidding. We've all done that. At the bookstore, like, how's it end? Well, I'll tell you my little version, then Tracy will tell you hers. It's, I think, so I don't know about you, Tracy, but I didn't know I was writing a cozy mystery when I wrote my first cozy mystery. I was coming off of historical fiction, which I love. And like Tracy just talked about, there's always a mysterious element. My historical fiction had a bit of a Gothic twist. It was all set in Scotland, Scottish. I think lighthouses was one, as border castle. A lot of more in-depth elements to that. But there was always that mystery that always keeps you reading. And I was told, it's a publishing is a tough industry, obviously. And my agent asked me, she said, why don't you try to write a mystery? Why don't you write something else? Right now, just, the market for historical fiction, like I was writing, was drying up. So I'm like, mystery? I never thought I'd write a mystery. So I wrote a funny, modern, lighthearted mystery. Not very graphic, but just kind of more entertaining. And it turns out that I wrote a cozy mystery by accident. So, so we say that there, it's not very, it's still mysterious, but it's not very graphic or explicit sex or violence. So it has a large reading, audience, kid, 13-year-olds to 100-year-olds.
Yeah.
They a lot of times no swearing in the books as well. So there's a lot of interesting genre rules, and they're kind of breaking these rules today. I don't know if Tracy,
I've seen that a
yeah,
little
they're
bit.
trying to
Yeah.
push the envelope a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think it's, we live in a time where a couple of years ago, women's suspense was very big, or women's psycho thrillers was very big. But now people just, the cozy seems to be a pretty growing thing right now, because people want a comforting read, and they don't want to, I think the world is scary enough right now. So I think they want to find something comforting. Usually they're in like charming villages. It's almost like visiting It's like watching maybe a sitcom a little bit, where you kind of come back to those same characters in that same setting, just different episodes or different mysteries or adventures. But Tracy,
Yeah.
you've got a probably more eloquent way to say
No,
it.
I think you kind of pinned it. It's it I learned, I kind of had a you said you didn't realize you were writing a cozy until it was written. And I didn't realize that I had grown up reading cozy mysteries, not knowing they were cozy mysteries.
True, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I grew up on, like, when I was younger, it was Nancy Drew. I got into Mary Higgins Clark. Some of her stuff is more, it's definitely suspense, but she definitely wrote books too that are cozy mysteries as well. And then obviously Agatha Christie, but I didn't have a label for those. And I ended up getting a kind of a on the fly education in the rules of the genre when I wrote the Hallmark cozy mystery series. Because there are rules. There are for the most part, what I learn is that you really, swear words are not very widely accepted in the cozy community. So it is, and if you're trying to not alienate your reader, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of harsh language in the cozy mysteries, because you want your reader to pick it up and read it and enjoy it and not get jolted out of the story by something that they don't expect. So I think some things are changing and evolving, but the basis is basically just that, like, the small town feel, the characters that sort of either all know each other, they're acquainted with each other, somebody's cousin's sister works at the, whatever shop in town, and they know the guy that was murdered. And then the more unsavory elements do just, they tend to happen off page. So you know it happened, but you're not front row for blood and guts and gore and the sex scenes. It's kind of alluded to, no real concrete details are given unless it, like, pertains directly to, like, what your amateur sleuth's trying to figure out. So I think I got that education in like learning to write that first Hallmark book, but I know, like, everything I had grown up reading my whole life, unintentionally, just sort of everything we read seeps into the writing, I think, so that helped too.
It's true.
Thank you for that definition. I know I was trying to explain to my parents when I was talking to them about this panel what cozies were, and I was like, in my heart, I know what this means. My words are not here.
If you think like any town in a Hallmark movie, or Gilmore Girls, Stars Hollow kind of town, that's what I think of, in most of the cozy mysteries that I love. So
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about your settings? Both of you have written books set in Michigan, and Tracy, I know your other series is in New York and a little grittier, but still quite cozy, if I will.
yeah.
I know you're both Michigan ladies as well, but was that a huge inspiration in your writing, or do you plan on branching out to other small town communities?
I can answer that first. I do, write what you know. It definitely is a cliche for a reason, because you do. I love Michigan. I still live here for a reason. I love it here, and I set my Hallmark series on Lake Michigan because I love that area over there. Kind of like a fictional Saugatuck area. And then when I wrote the one that's set in kind of split between Manhattan and upstate New York, I got to draw a lot. There were a whole lot of phone calls and communications between me and my literary agent who lives in Manhattan. So she was literally like looking up a map of, okay, if the car chase takes place in the Hudson Yards, and then they'd make a right on, oh no, they wouldn't be able to go that fast on that one because there's, whatever. So it helped a lot to have that inside information. And then the women's fiction that comes out in October is set in kind of a little bit south of Venice and Naples on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So okay. I don't live there. It's not right. It's not, definitely not where I reside, but my mom is a snowbird and I get down there like every chance I get. And it's one of my like happy places. it's beautiful down there. So writing this book that comes out in October was basically like going on a vacation to Venice. So it's
Aw.
very nice.
That sounds
Oh.
amazing.
And so for me, so that first cozy mystery I set, because I'm used to writing probably Scottish historical fiction is how I came to that. And I wanted to write about a place that I loved and I grew up and had gone to spent most of my summers there. And that happened to be Door County, Wisconsin. So that was my first cozy mystery series. So I didn't know I wrote the cozy mystery series. And again, I had set it on a golf course. And I kind of coined it, like I gave it a punny title because again, cozy mysteries, some of them have punny titles.
Mhm.
I've never had, I don't think, punny titles. I don't know, Tracy, you haven't either. But sometimes the genre has these really funny, twists of phrases and words. But anyhow, I set it on this thing, and when I was shopping it around, I kind of coined it as like Scooby-Doo meets Caddyshack because it was kind of humorous, funny, I'm attracted to, humor writing and things like that. And so I was told that I have a different literary agent who handles that stuff. And she's excellent, but she was so funny because she said, well, first of all, would you mind changing it up a little bit because you set this novel on a golf course and golf is a leisure time pursuit and leisure time pursuits don't sell. Women like to read about, and she told me all these things. I had no idea, which, was all news to me. And then I said, yeah, well, I set it in a town called Cherry Cove. I could easily do food because I love baking, cooking, very food oriented. That is one of the hooks in the mystery genre. And Tracy and I can talk more about this because she uses different hooks. But my agent Googled Cherry cozy mystery and nobody was writing about it. So she goes, yeah, you got Cherry, let's do it. So that first series was called the Very Cherry Mystery Series. Set in Door County, Wisconsin, in a fictitious town, Cherry Cove. I moved it to a cherry orchard and a bed and breakfast. That was supposed to be a 3-book deal, but again, 2 books into it, and the publisher, who used to handle a lot of mysteries, that mystery house they just canned that mystery house. So then when I was trying to think of another, because I really liked writing the mysteries, thinking of another mystery series to write, and I was actually working towards my Haunted Lighthouse mystery. That was my 3rd book, and I just pivoted and put it in Michigan because I live in Michigan now. And I love it. And I thought, you know what? And I'm not going to limit myself to cherries. It's still going to be, baking is still going to be kind of the focus of it. So my protagonist, Lindsay Bakewell, is a New York City investment banker. And at the time I was writing this, my brother was working on Wall Street, and I would say, what are you doing now? Like, what do you, he had some interesting jobs. And so I thought, hey, New York City investment banker would be kind of interesting to move to, a lighthouse in Michigan. The premise is she breaks up with her celebrity chef boyfriend or fiance, goes home, drinks a bottle of wine, anger bakes some cupcakes, because we all do that, right? We all anger bake when we're mad, relaxes us. Right now I'm finding myself cutting more fruit up than anger baking, trying to cut the carbs a little. But anyhow, she drinks some wine, does some internet shopping, and ends up buying a lighthouse in Michigan and decides to open a dream bakery in it. And that's how we get her, somebody with a financial background, to a bakery on the shores of Lake Michigan. So my book is set just a little like kind of by the Sleeping Bear Dunes. I'm not going to actually name the town, but it's also based on an actual lighthouse that I visit a lot of lighthouses. And in my mind, all lighthouses are haunted. So I kind of play upon all my fun, like interests, baking. I have a big dog in my novels. I had a Newfoundland dog, so I just put him in because I thought if I was going to live in a lighthouse, I'd take my Newfoundland with me. And so that's kind of as stop. I have 2 dogs in here right now, so they're trying to behave. But that's kind of how the process for me is. I just knew what I was going to write about, had to switch it. And when we pitched that, then that was, that sold pretty quickly. But I had been preparing to write that story setting in Cherry Cove. So I've been able to kind of cross over. The new book that I'm writing is going to be a lot different. It is still maybe considered cozy mystery, but it's going to be, all the locations going to be changing. And it's going to be set more in the UK. The first 3 books it's kind of a weird mashup of food and ghost hunting. So
It sounds so fun.
It was a weird
Yeah.
idea, and I actually came up with it with my younger brother, the one who was living out on in Manhattan, working on Wall Street, but he was also a paranormal investigator, and his wife was a big foodie. Like she, renovated big hotels and made big celebrity chef restaurants. And I liked history, so I'm like, wouldn't it be fun to have a bad reality TV show where we do ghost hunting, but it's food based, and I'll just talk about history. And somehow I ended up pitching that. My publisher asked me for more ideas for a different novel, a different series, to keep me writing more, I guess, like I have the time, but no, I do. I'm complaining. Tracy, look at me. Why do I complain? Okay, I'm not complaining. As you can see, my boys and I started a podcast too. So that's just another thing to add to the weird plate that we have in this house. But it's going to be, it's going to be a lot of fun. I have to do a lot of rethinking. So I pitched this along with 2 other cozy mystery series that I would love to write. Of course, one was set in Scotland. One was, set in the Great Lakes as I like. And the other one was just an out there pitch. And as soon as I pitched it, my agent was, because I even had like bad TV reviews in the pitch, because it is basically I'm writing about a reality TV show that I was going to actually pitch to a reality TV network. And I just decided to make it into a novel. And that's what you're going to see next year. You're going to see the train wreck that is my reality TV show that's now a novel. So
This sounds brilliant, and it sounds like it could work in so
it's
many
funny.
genres.
The
So
series,
it transcends cozy. I
it's
think
crazy. It is. The series title is Food and Spirits.
Oh, that's
I
brilliant.
love that.
But I came up with the series title when I was pitching it to my brother like 9 years ago. And I've always had it, and I will tell people I used to work at the library here in Howell. And I don't know, like somebody wanted me to continue to do that as a show. And so I thought, film is hard.
It's very different.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's if I can pull it off, it'll be fun. If not, well, hey, you can all, you've all heard it here. I tried.
You can do it. I have no doubt. It's very different. It's a very different idea.
Very different. And I think they went with it because it is different.
Yeah.
So it's fun for me because I do get to, call upon my historical fiction roots. It's more rooted in history. I always put a little history in everything I do because lighthouses are historic as well. I don't want to be a paranormal writer, but I seem to be drawn to weird things. And it's not, when I write paranormal, it's not like a monster or in your face. It's just slight paranormal elements. And I have that all through, I guess, my historical fiction too. I feel it's real, but that's where I differ from the actual, the actual real world. But anyhow,
Tracy, Darcy mentioned hooks in cozies and that you tend to use different ones. I know Darcy's big on the baking and the small towns. I'm getting the feeling that you're a little bit more into like museum-y things.
I think that was kind of and again, that goes back to me not really fully understanding the rules when I started to write the Hallmark series. And then when I got into the other series is with Crooked Lane Books, and it started with Ruby Red Herring. Both series are art world based. Ruby Red Herring and Peril at Pennington Manor it's just a 2-book series with Crooked Lane Books. But that follows an antiques appraiser who is young. She's, by my standards, she's young. She's mid to late 20s, and she steps into the shoes of her parents who have just passed away in a mysterious, unexplained car crash a few months earlier. So she takes over running their antiques appraisal business in Manhattan. And she does have a background in that. She went to school for that, but she wanted to spread her wings, and she moved away and tried to do her own thing. And then this happened. So she comes back to New York to take over the business so that it doesn't go under. And also because she still has she's got a 17-year-old sister they're both dealing with the fallout of losing their parents. So the hook with that is the idea of an antiques appraiser who the mystery tends to kind of come in centered around the items that she's appraising or the items that are being brought to her for authentication. And so it's a little bit of a different hook. But it definitely, it worked, and it was a lot of fun for me to write. And then within that, I wanted to I didn't want to ignore the fact that she and her younger sister are both dealing with losing their parents. And I felt like it might be a little bit heavy for a cozy mystery series, but again, I think it worked because they have a good rapport with each other. They're both very hopeful, kind of uplifting characters. But we see the main character, Avery, struggle kind of severely in some areas with some overwhelming anger issues that stem from anxiety and the depression of losing her parents and having to give up her life where she was to come back and completely change courses. So I also got just a little bit, I did touch on like what she does to manage that, because if she's not managing that, then it spills over into affecting how she's running the business. And I think writing characters like that who are dealing with we all deal with real life stuff that isn't the fun stuff. And that kind of made me want to keep going back to the manuscript and keep writing it, because I had to see that how it all turned out, and that she was going to be okay too. So I didn't set out to write two cozy mystery series that were both kind of art world, antique world centered, but it just in brainstorming ideas with my agent, it just seemed to work. And both, I have nothing to do with art. I am a terrible artist and I don't have a background in it. I'm a nurse. So it also led to a lot of research, but I don't mind that part. I always like learning. I think a lot of writers enjoy learning. So.
Since you've mentioned your crimes were very like art focused this time, when you're pitching these books, when you're coming up with your ideas, are you coming up with that mystery element first, or are you building around your characters? As somebody who probably picks up a handful of mysteries a year, I'm always very impressed that anyone is able to write something and like leave all of these clues. So I always feel like that has to be the first thing you do, but maybe I'm completely wrong.
I think there's a lot of ways to go at that. I think there's definitely not one formula that works. And I've learned that in talking among our little writing community here, and the authors, just even local authors, we all try to support each other. I have to know before I start writing who the victim is going to be and who the killer is going to be. And then I also do kind of have to have a general idea of who my red herrings are, who my suspects are, and not who my red herrings are, but like what the big clues are going to be that I'm going to drop. But beyond that, I kind of, I figure it out as I'm writing, but I know the beginning and the end. But I also, one of our author friends, and I'm interested to hear Darcy's, the way that she goes about it. But I know one of our author friends who also lives in Howell too, Colleen Cambridge, she has said before that she doesn't know. Often she doesn't know until 2/3 of the way through the book, or sometimes even longer, who the killer is. And I'm thinking, from a writing standpoint, it's kind of brilliant to do it that way too, because I mean, if she doesn't know who the killer is, she's definitely not going to give it away in the second chapter.
You better not know if she doesn't know.
Right. Yep. So it's interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know how she does that either.
I don't know.
I usually like to, like for me, maybe even like thinking of a title first. So Colleen and I are with the same publishing house, but we have different editors. And so now my editor likes to see an outline for, I think it's mostly for promotional purposes. And so I took that to heart, and I thought, what I'll do is I will just plot out my whole mystery. I never done this before with historical fiction. I never did it. But now I'm in the habit of like making about a 20-page outline to give to, brainstorm all the characters, brainstorm some of the, plot points. And of course, like, find my ending. I usually always have the ending. Like I always see it, and I write very visually. I always see it like a movie I'm playing in my head.
Mhm.
So I start from the beginning and work my way to the end. And
I
it's
think we
fun,
have
it's like-
similar processes.
yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
And so like because I don't, some people write scenes and then loop them together. Some people, like our friend, just starts writing and figures it out as she goes. I think Tracy and I both, if we have, you know, kind of the premise of the scene, I think certain scenes will pop into our head that we want to work in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? You see something, you're like, I
Right.
need to put that in there. Like there's always something that it's like the carrot that's dangling ahead of me that I can write up to.
That you're working toward. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And you know what I mean? And then, you know, as you're writing, like you think you might have your story plotted out, but it always gets richer. You know, so
Yeah.
really that outline is just like, make sure we talk to this person and make sure this person's involved. And, you know, and even coming up with names, and I'm famous for this, like I'll try to come up with names. And then as I'm writing, I'll change the name. So I have like the same, sometimes I'll write 2 different names for the same person. And oh, the editors are so good about catching that. But
Oh, I know. That
not
makes
a
such a
main-
mess. Like,
yeah, like not a main character, but it's like maybe somebody's kid, you know, like, so there's a lot to remember, especially when you're writing a series, because you have your characters that you bring in all the time, but you also have to make these new adventures. And so you bring in new people and to keep that background of the town the same, make sure we talk, you know, that's another thing, like consistency. Make
Yeah.
sure we talk about, you know, if I'm going to put a shop in, make sure I describe it the same way each time. We can enrich it. We can talk about a new wing or something that was added, but you know what I mean? So a lot
Yeah.
of the writing process is just kind of setting a story in this setting that we've all created and we've loved. So we kind of world build. I don't know. I would love to visit a town that we read about that's so perfect, but what about you, Tracy? You want to visit, like, you know, your Hallmark town, you know? It's like it seems so
oh, I would love
nice,
that. I'd love that.
welcoming.
But I found it's made me get more organized in my writing too, because I'm definitely like a much more fly by the seat of my pants writer, a pantser more than a plotter. But when you get into writing like a book 2 or a book 3, I had to start a whole entire document that was just like a series Bible that had, okay, this is how I describe this shop. This is what the father looks like. This is what the florist looks like. And he has a daughter named this. And
Yeah.
because you lose track of those, I lose track of those details. So I would have to keep going back to that because it bugs me if I'm reading a series and I pick something up in the 4th book like that character had red hair. What is she? Why did she say so?
Yeah, readers are smart. Readers pick up on these things because they're so vested and they hold you accountable.
Yes.
But if they
So-
love your
Yeah.
work, they're reading it multiple times or they're binging it all at once. So they've definitely spent more time with your characters in a short amount of time than
All
you
at
have
once.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
I know Katie said she had a couple of questions for you all too. So I'll invite
I
Katie.
do. So I'm curious because, you know, you have both dabbled in several different genres and you've touched on this a little bit, you know, like mystery tends to bleed in even into your historical fiction, for example, but is it difficult to switch genres like that and to just move into a whole different lane as you're writing?
All right, I'll take that first. For me, I was very resistive because, you know, I really thought, you know, first of all, to get a book published takes a lot of effort. And I kind of I didn't even actually want to write until I have 3 sons. And when I think I had 2 and I was pregnant with 1, I was probably working a little bit and I just got no sleep. And that was, you know, people laugh at this, but I'm like, that's when I pulled out a pen and a notebook and started writing my big historical 18th century historical fiction epic. So for some reason, you know, I was not thinking correctly, right? So I thought, oh, I'll just write a novel. And it ended up being a 1,000-page, like I said, 18th century epic. It took me 8 years to write it. And when I was done, it was like, and it was so funny because I have this story that I tell my parents got me, you know, we have like a Scandinavian background. They got me this mug with the Viking on it. And the day I wrote that last sentence of that first book, and I realized it was the last sentence, I was like, the mug just dropped from the handle, like it was finished. So now I kind of buy a new mug for every project I write. Not any hand. I haven't broken another handle because I haven't spent that long microwaving. 8 years of microwaving this mug, you know, kind of keeping that coffee warm. But so that got me writing. When I tried to send it out, I got, of course, 100 rejections on that novel because I didn't realize it was too big for the industry. And so all along, like Tracy and I are saying, like, we learn something. There's no right way to be published. There's no right way to write a book. Why people try to write is even different motivations. For me, it was purely to entertain myself. And I loved those old style historical fictions. So that's what I thought I would do. Wrote a smaller one, and that one ended up selling pretty quickly, but that long novel, and I had started the second part of it, and I think I'm at 800 pages of the second part of it, which is ridiculous. I spent a lot of time writing this novel. But what that taught me to do was to write a little faster, how to do the research a little faster, how to tell a story. And this time, let's just focus on one part of it, not make it so sweeping and epical. And that got me into my historical fiction. And I thought I was going to be, and once I got, like my first agent, my first big deal, I thought, I don't have to find an agent again. I'm set. And unfortunately, you don't understand, like I came to it as a newbie, right? Didn't understand the market, and I had a great run with it, but they'd asked me to write a second book, and they were actually, the trouble was the sales weren't there. So it's very hard for authors, especially first-time authors, to sell enough to get another contract, because we're producing a product. Right? Basically, you boil it down to, I make a widget, and if my widget's not selling, I have to come up with a new widget or get out of the game. And so it sounds very harsh and very cruel to say it like that, but I think Tracy and I, like all of my friends, all went through it. We all realized, like, oh, I'll never have to find another agent or editor again. And don't ever say that.
No, sales drive a lot of what you do creatively. Unfortunately, you can't avoid that.
Right.
So I think you can't avoid it. So you kind of work around it. You find a way to stay interested and stay creative and do what you want to do within the confines of what the market wants you to do.
Exactly. And that's why I shifted. I would have never shifted to writing mystery if my first agent just didn't suggest it, because she's like, I just can't sell what you write right now. And she said, genre fiction tends to grab an audience better. You're in literary fiction, and literary fiction is a very crowded market space. And if people don't know your name now, it's hard, because I got into the game in 2010. And the internet was people weren't buying ebooks much. That was just coming about. Barnes and Noble was closing. No, Borders. I'm sorry. I take that back. Borders had closed when my book came out. And so it was this weird time in the publishing world, and they didn't know how to handle it. They don't know how to, how do you create an audience? How do you push your books out when we are kind of introverted, extroverted people? What we do is we do it at our desk. We write in our homes, at our desks, and then we're expected to, push it out there and grab this market and sell books to keep into our jobs. So I think the process that I've gone through is just learning, understanding what happened back in I still love historical fiction. I still have it. I still have a lot of it. But right now, I'm now a cozy mystery writer. And so I can't sell historical fiction right now, because I'm now known as a cozy mystery, which is great. And I love it. And once I started writing it and made the transition, and I made it purposely modern and fun so that I could keep the two separate. So, you know what I mean? The two things that I loved. If I made them too much alike, I don't know. Just for me, that was my thought process.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy, really enjoy what I'm doing too. And I do feel that someday, because people will ask who've read my historical fiction, like, are you going to put out another one? And I'm like, probably someday, but the timing has to be correct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's a waiting game, as Tracy and I know. We might have these brilliant ideas and try to pitch them or want to write this story. And sometimes, like, our passion, our labor of love, the stories that we want to tell are not the stories that are going to maybe be widely received and read.
Well, and you actually re-released a book, right, Darcy? You put out a different edition.
Yeah, I tried to get my first one, and I really should release my second one, because I did the Exiled Sarah Stevenson. A friend of mine loved it so much, she made a cover for me and said, no, we need to get this out there. The second one, the trouble is, when you sell a book so I sold that to Random House, and I owned the material, I owned the intellectual property, but they owned the cover. and the typesetting, because that's an art too. And so I have to go back and re-edit it or hire an editor. And so it's a slow process, especially when I'm writing a lot. My Cherry series I re-released too, because that publisher, I had just come out. And my second book was only out for 6 months when my agent called, and I was, in the process of trying to write that haunted lighthouse book. But my agent called me and she said, when your agent calls you, you're like, oh, did I make a list? Am I doing well? And she's like, stop writing that book. The publisher's closing and your book is one of the last to be published, which is a very terrible thing because you might put out a good book, but it's not out there long enough. And what they did is then 6 months later, the publisher's like, we're scrapping all your book. Do you want to buy some? So they were pulping their entire print run because it was unable to sell at that point. If they were going, they couldn't make money on it. So what I ended up doing with that one again is teamed up with a friend of mine who did 2 new covers, because again, for me to purchase those covers, I think they wanted $3,000 to $4,000 for the covers that they had commissioned. And I just didn't have that cash lying around. No, but what I mean? So that's another really horrible thing. There's many ways to publish, and a lot of people do the self-publishing route because it's very easy now. It's very easy to upload a book to Amazon. I've kind of done both, but it's time consuming. It's not as easy as books.
I was going to say easy. I don't know if easy is the word because
it's convenient.
It's
like
daunting for me.
Yeah. But then finding those algorithms, and traditional publishing, they handle all of that for you. But we have friends that do a bit of both. They'll publish books, online, they'll publish traditionally, or some just, so it's a kind of the wild, wild west. And I feel it's not just writing or books. I feel it's a lot of industries, the creative industries that are doing that, because there's
that's the thing. It's not just, you don't just get to write. So
I know, I guess what Tracy are saying is like, dang it, I just want to write.
Well, and you talk about being sort of pigeonholed, Darcy. Is that why you have why your next book is being published under a pen name, Justin Clare?
That's exactly. Yeah. And because when I wrote that manuscript, I wrote it really, honestly, I wrote it for myself. We always want our work to get published, of course, but I wrote it for me. And then when we started, I cleaned everything up and we sent it out. There's a lot of language in there. But I mean, it's a completely different genre, and
you can get away with it.
And I have wonderful, cozy. I mean, the nice thing about social media is it lets us engage with our readers, and I have wonderful cozy mystery readers who are invested in the characters, and they've read everything, and they know probably more than I do about my little towns. But the last thing I want to do is just be like, oh, here, I wrote another book under my same name, without any kind of like, wait a minute, this is different, has different content. There's some sensitive things in here that you might not want to read about, because it's kind of a emotional roller coaster family. There's family drama and some bad things that happen. And it's just, so I had to use a different name. That is really, I didn't know, but that is really common now.
Yeah.
In publishing, that is usually the main reason people end up writing under a pen name. Just a change in genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was lucky that I got to keep my name,
Yes, you are.
I just fall into that like Forrest Gump luck thing, like, I get to keep it. I don't know why, but like Tracy said, since she's doing something so different, might offend the audience that she's, garnered under her name, her Tracy name. You've got her Jess name. But I mean, there's that as well, like going into a different market, or sometimes just reinventing yourself. There's another reason why we have a lot of cozy mystery authors that write under several pen names.
Yeah.
Because of again, that success thing. If their series doesn't hit that crazy mark, they might be asked, pitch something else, but we're going to try you under a different name. And that is purely a business decision that's financially driven. It's
Yeah.
like one of those, it's not, it has nothing to do, with anything other than
Yeah.
like trying to erase a track record for the book buyer. So it's all a game. Like it's very interesting. Like Tracy said, the more we get into it, the more you learn about it.
Yeah.
We're coming up on nearing the end of our program, and we do have a few audience questions. So if anyone else still in the audience has questions, make sure you put them in. But we will start with a question from Fran asking both of you, how many books can you write in a year? Which sounds kind of like a challenge.
Tracy, take that.
It takes me about, if I'm on a deadline, I'm a procrastinator. So I work really well under pressure. So I can write a book in 3 months. I can write from start to finish. If I know I have to have it done by this date for whatever reason, whether it's a hard deadline or this is when my agent wants to send it out, I can do that. 3 months is comfortable for me. If it's much longer than that, I tend to lose momentum. But I don't think I could write 4 books a year. So
No.
because there's a build up to that starting point, and then there's also, you have to kind of put those characters away and that storyline away and be ready to move on to you have to come up with the next idea, the plot structure, everything else. So I'm saying 3 months to write the story, but from start to finish, from concept to final product, I would say 6 months. So 2 books a year. That's what I've done in the past.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. I know authors who do 3 books a year, but for me, it's 2. This is the first year that I have to write 2 books a year. And there's that process of like transitioning, because they're 2 different series now. And so I hope I can do it. No, I'm doing it, but the challenge is, I mean, they're giving me, roughly 6 months for each. One of them is a little shorter than the other one, but and so I like a year, especially for historical fiction, because of the research. But I think for this, 2 books a year, so that would be my limit. I don't think I'd write another like Tracy. 2.
As someone who fails at Nano every year, like that's incredibly impressive.
I've never tried it. So at least you try. That's good.
Exactly. I have a question from Vicky, which is one of our perennial favorite questions here. And who are some of your favorite authors? Who are you reading? Any books that you really want to have your readers pick up that aren't just yours? Of course, we are promoting your books tonight, but anything else you think people should be reading right now?
Well, I'll take that. I love MC Beaton. She was the first cozy mystery writer I think I read. She's passed away at this point, but she has 2 series out, and those are so much fun. Right now I'm reading a book by a friend of mine, Angela M. Sanders. It's like a witch librarian, and it's adorable. It's very cute. I think it's Fate and Witch is the first one I'm reading. And then I just got finished reading one of our other friends' books, Colleen Cambridge, and that one's great. That is the art of, is it the art of French murder? So
yes, I love that.
Yeah, and it kind of takes, it's more of a historical mystery. So it's about actually Michigan, Rosie the Riveter girl, who goes to France and is befriended by Julia Child. So it's kind of a play on, the art of French cooking. It's the art of French murder. So that was a lot of fun. I got Tracy's queued up to go. I got an arc for new books. I'm excited about that. I don't know. I mean, I read a lot, but I'm a slow reader. So
I almost never read one at a time. So I'm in the middle of a few. I just finished the newest Nancy Thayer, All the Days of Summer. It was really good. Just like, going on vacation again, and I have Hannah McKinnon's The Darlings ready. That's next in my list. And I'm in the middle of another one of our friends, Frank Anthony Polito. He's got Renovated to Death, and now the newest is Rehearsed to Death. I think I said that in the right order. So I'm in the middle of the newest one that just came out, which is it's just really cute. It's about a couple in the Detroit area solving mysteries and renovating renovating their house in the process. So it's a lot of fun. I tend to read across. I just read what looks good, read across genres.
We support that here at Book and Author Society. Well, we're coming up on the end of our program and we do have a couple of announcements. I do want to truly thank both Tracy Gardner and Darcy Hanna for being with us tonight. This has been such a wonderful discussion, such a great way to start our summer and to hopefully inspire you all to pick up their books, other cozy mysteries, any books at all. I hope you all saw Katie and I's exact faces when you mentioned witchy librarians. Our entire board is basically made up of librarians. We're deeply moved by that. I
Yeah.
think I saw Katie Googling it as you were talking.
Angela M. Sanders is the author name.
Thank you. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Anyone interested in this program, Schuler Books in the chat. Feel free to go order books from there. You're supporting Book and Author Society. You're supporting Darcy. You're supporting Tracy. And I suppose now is a good time for some announcements that you all might be waiting for. Katie, would you like to unmute yourself?
I would love to. So thank you again, Tracy and Darcy, just to echo what Sarah said. I now have a very long reading list on top of my already long reading list, but your books sound absolutely fantastic, the ones I haven't read yet. So I'm very excited. We love all things books and authors at Book and Author Society. As you all know, we are very excited, however, to announce that in October of this year, we will be returning to our in-person luncheon events. So please mark your calendars for October 11th. We will be having an in-person author luncheon like the old days. It's going to be at Laurel Manor this time, and it will be from 11:30 to 2 p.m. So we are super excited to welcome you all back and welcome a great panel of authors that will be announced in the future. So stay tuned for that. Also at this luncheon, we are debuting a new grant. So for those who have attended our luncheons in the past, you know that the mission of our society is to support libraries and literacy organizations. And we typically give out grants at our luncheons. This year, we are super excited to announce a brand new grant that honors our former president, Robert Gaylor. And this is the Robert Gaylor Idea Award. So in the fall, one lucky library or literacy organization is going to get $2,000. The award complements the spirit of what is at Oakland University. It's the Gaylor Collection. He was a librarian there for his career, and that contains many titles of historical significance I can talk tonight, related to LGBTQ lives from the mid-20th century to the present. It's a great collection, and it represents a lifetime of careful stewardship from Bob Gaylor. So in honoring that legacy, we put together the Idea Grant, which is going to support a collection, technological need, or programming that supports inclusion, diversity, equity, or accessibility, so that idea piece. So we are super excited. We know Bob is very excited to have this grant named after him and to honor his legacy, and we look forward to presenting that in the fall. All the details will be on MishLib listserv tomorrow, so please look for that, or you can contact us for further details.
Thank you, Katie. Now is a great time to remind all of you, if you have not signed up for our newsletter, or if you have friends who may have fallen off our email list, maybe unfollowed us on some things because we weren't during live events, now would be a great time to refollow us, sign up for our newsletter. If you're librarians, sign up for Mish Libel, all of those things to stay up to date with our book and author dealings. Make sure to keep an eye out for that announcement for the Ideas Grant. We are very excited to be giving out grants again, and we are so excited to see you all in person in October. Again, follow us everywhere. That way you can see when we announce authors and other cool events. And for those of you that may not be local to the Metro Detroit area, or who might just not want to leave your house or be in a large crowd, we will continue to do events on Zoom. We will continue to have options for you as well. So thank you all for a wonderful Monday night, and I hope you enjoy your summer.